Hey there everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm Dr. Craig Engstrom. On this channel, I am primarily focused on improving professionals' communication competence so that they can become more efficient or effective in their workflow. That primarily means covering tools related to Microsoft productivity, other techniques or tricks that you might use to become just a little bit faster at what you do at work. And again, it's aimed at competence, not necessarily expertise. Because I am a communication trainer as well as an instructor at a university, a lot of my followers tend to fall within those professions, and for that reason I thought that I would, if I start to come across some journal articles or useful news that I think would be fitting for that audience, that I would go ahead and share this. I also plan to offer some insights or my takeaways from some key articles that are published in magazines like Inc. and Entrepreneur. And the reason for that is because I know that I do have a following of people that are interested more in that communication competence topic. This video will be primarily aimed at the audience of folks that are thinking about careers in training development or higher education. So let's go ahead and look at an article that recently came out. It's actually a couple of weeks old, but I've been sitting on it, just hadn't had time to produce a video. So the article is a regional public university's identity crisis, and I think that it speaks though to some of the changes that are happening within higher education. And if you are thinking about a career in higher education, this might give you some pause and give you some reflective moments to think about how might you cultivate other opportunities for you if, for example, you're going for a master's degree or a PhD. So let's go ahead and get started with a review of this article. Okay, so as you can see here, the title of the article is A Regional Public University's Identity Crisis. It's primarily focused on Ohio University, which I think is a really good test case because it is a Midwestern university. It is rural. It is located sort of about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes away from Columbus, so it's not in a city center. It serves a region that is largely lower economic. It is a university that I think is common for a lot of smaller state schools, and so I just really think that this is a really good case study for a lot of universities. And of course, for folks that are going into higher education or thinking about careers in higher education, not everybody's going to end up at an elite school. Not everybody's going to end up at a R1 or Research 1 institution. A lot of folks will actually end up at schools like Ohio University. And so it's helpful to kind of think about what are some of the changes in industry within this profession that might have impact on your career. And so let's go ahead and just walk through this article and I'll give you my commentary. So it says that Richard Vedder here, an economics professor emeritus at Ohio University, has decided to teach his fall course, Economic History of Europe, for a salary of $1. Oh my God. So first off, I think this is a terrible idea because if you are a professional, regardless of what industry you're in, you need to show or demonstrate your value. And I think for an economics professor, what the heck is this person thinking? Yeah, it's great that you're going to give up, and he's probably getting a lot of income flow from research that he's doing. He probably has some grants. So it's not that he's working for free, but from the university's point of view, essentially what he's communicating to them, in my opinion, is that he's worth $1. Now, I think a better strategy would be to, rather than take $1 salary, is to take the salary that he has been contracted for and then go ahead and give that to the foundation or scholarships or whatever it might be. That's actually, I think, a better strategy than just saying I will work for $1, because it really devalues then what you're doing. So again, from an economics point of view, this makes no sense to me. But what do I know? I am not a faculty member in economics. I am a faculty member in communication. I don't know, maybe back in Europe, back in the day, you know, people worked for free. In fact, actually, back in the day, a lot of faculty made money by selling their works or their books to students, and the idea of faculty making a standard salary is actually a pretty recent phenomenon that sort of took off in the 1900s. So interesting history there. But anyway, let's go ahead and go on. So here is Richard, or Professor Vedder, and as you can see here, he looks like he's a little bit of a curmudgeon. Definitely a busy dude, because you can tell all of his books haven't been organized, but I think that's pretty common for faculty. So let's go ahead and move on. He says it will take a little burden off the university. Well, probably. I don't know what he makes. My guess is definitely six figures, lower six figures, maybe 200. I'm guessing if OU has the economics department in the College of Liberal Arts or something like that, it's lower salary than it would be if it was in business school. But nevertheless, he's willing to take it for $1. And again, as a professional, it is vital that you make people pay you what you are worth. I'm a big proponent of that in my consulting business. I rarely give discounts, and the reason for that is when you do, people then think that you're only worth what you discount to. So charge what you're worth. Anyway, so the issue here is that the coronavirus crisis has hurt colleges everywhere, and as we know, this is true, but it's also the case that this has sort of been happening to universities over time. In fact, there's been predictions for the past decade that some universities would be ending up going into foreclosure, they would be merged, they would be purchased, they would be sold, or they would just completely go bankrupt and close down. And basically what they're saying here is this is hastening the reckoning. So COVID is not necessarily to blame for the position that universities are currently in. So one of the challenges, though, is that more students need college to get the jobs that they want, but it's become harder for them to afford. And I know a lot of people might think that the reason college is so expensive is because, faculty are making a lot of money, and that is actually not true. It's that, at least for state schools, what has happened is state legislatures have defunded, have reduced the amount of money that they're paying into universities, and so to make that up, they charge more to students. Of course, at the same time, students have some tastes that they want. They want more amenities, and that has increased the cost of the university, so that's what they're saying here in this article a bit further down. So sprinkled throughout the Midwest, including in remote areas, OU is in southern Ohio in the foothills of the Appalachia. As I noted, it is a rural university. So there's a lot of questioning about what the university is supposed to be. Is it supposed to be a regional university that sort of attends to the needs of the counties surrounding it, or is it desired to be a national university, or does it want to compete, for example, with athletics? There's a lot of questions that come around what is the identity of a college or university, but some of the things that come up then is the question of who do you actually serve? What kind of school is it? And ultimately, how do you pay for what it is you want to offer? So there's a lot of conflicts that are going on. And so even though the university was founded in 1804, OU is the state's and region's oldest public university. It is known for its liberal arts programs, but it cannot compete, for example, with Ohio State University, which further down the page we learn is actually cheaper than Ohio University, which is interesting because OSU, or Ohio State University, I think it's the Ohio State University, actually costs less but is ranked higher. So there's some questions here in terms of that. It does go into how over time the cost has increased from $1,206 to, or what was $3,792 in 2020 dollars, all the way up to essentially $12,612 for an academic year. And so tuition, fees, room and board now provide about 55% of the university's revenues, and at some campuses in Ohio it's even higher. So you can see that the defunding of higher education from the legislature has increased the costs to students, which then of course makes it less affordable and fewer students come, while you having more expenses. So what you are in is in a fast decline, or an accelerated decline that is not good. And really it's hard for organizations to rebound from decline. That's what the literature in organization studies tends to point out when you look at other industries that have gone through massive decline. Once an organization starts declining, it's really hard to turn it around. So anyway, what they say here is that the flagship and major university campuses saw a 1.4% rise in enrollment, but OU has seen a decline. Now, they do say that these schools are vital to the Midwest. The Brookings study counts 100 regional public universities serving 1.2 million students. So we're talking about a lot of students here. And the challenge, though, is, again, affordability. How do you pay for it? And, of course, everyone wants to go to the best school. And if your university is not the best school, it will decline. So we see here from 2005 to 2020, OU fell from 98th to 185th in the University U.S. News best national university rankings. So really, maybe it's now just a regional university. It might be quite competitive as a regional university, but it is not doing so well on the national level. And of course, one of the ways that you become really recognized as a national best university is to have really great publications coming out of it from faculty. But what has happened is OU, according to this article, and a lot of universities like it, have focused on activities that do little with learning and discovery, but is spending on things like administration, offering more campus amenities, offering services to students that normally might be provided elsewhere, maybe through mental health services outside of the university, and also Division I sports, of course, which is a losing proposition for a lot of universities. They cost more money than they actually bring in. So what's happened here is, again, this downward spiral. There's some white papers, there's some academic professional organizations weighing in, like the AAUP. And I'm going to just continue on here. But you can see that even though they are talking about having students that have higher GPAs and better SAT scores, we continue the decline. And it says here, everything is getting worse due to the pandemic. In Ohio, which has 14 public universities and 24 branch campuses, the government has cut higher education budget by $110 million. So again, these universities are doing less with more, again, transferring that as increased tuition to students. You can read about other universities that are similar to this at OU, and this is where I think the most valuable piece of information comes in for you that follow this channel because you're interested in training development or teaching in higher education, and is that at OU there were 3 rounds of layoffs, non-renewals, and cuts from May and June that had added up to a loss of 334 positions, just over 7% of the workforce. In addition, 82 faculty members have taken buyouts. And so, long story short, and this is where I wanted to get to, is that the industry is really shrinking in terms of opportunities for faculty. And the question then becomes, if you are planning a career in teaching or research, what are your alternatives? I am a huge fan of having side hustles as a university faculty member so that I am not beholden or contingent. My well-being is not necessarily 100% wed to my primary employer. Of course, at my institution, it is fine that you do this as long as you file conflict of interest statements, you indicate how much money you are making from this, so you do have to report on this side income. But you can do consulting as a side business, you can do training and development as a side business, you can do YouTube channels as a side business, whatever it might be. I highly recommend that if you're going into higher education or thinking that you're going to go into higher education, that you get serious about the realities of this, because I have worked for a private institution, I've worked for public institutions, and it's the same story year after year. How are we going to save money? Where are we going to cut? What can we do or extract from faculty in terms of more work? For less pay, and so forth. And I think that the future, even if you look at just demographics, it's likely that enrollments will continue to shrink, especially at some of these rural, smaller campuses, because students now want to go to cities, they want to go to markets where they can get potentially jobs, and so forth. But who knows, maybe a positive thing about the pandemic is we are learning that you don't need to live and work in cities. So, you know, maybe people want to live in a more affordable place. A lot of the rents in some of these towns, these college towns, are much lower than cities. So maybe there will be a draw for students to come here, because if you can get internships that are remote, why not go to a cheaper campus in terms of cost of living? And anyway, so this are some of the concerns that I have, and I wanted to bring this article to your attention. Okay, so that's all I really wanted to share about this article. It's a lengthy article, as you can see. I will put a link to it in the description. Go ahead and click on it, give it a read if it's something that interests you, and then come back and provide some of your own commentary, key takeaways, and so forth. If you happen to agree or disagree with some of the things that I'm talking about in this video, please let me know. And hey, if you like the video format, you want me to do more article reviews, happy to do so. Just tell me that also in your comments. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a like or thumbs up before you head away, as well as consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already done so. If this is your first time here, I welcome you. And as I said, I cover a variety of topics. They relate to communication competence. This can include public speaking. It can include use of technology, just a variety of different things that might appeal to you. If you think others might benefit from this, please share the video, because I think the more people we can have in the chat having a conversation, I think the more we will learn, and I look forward then to seeing you in future videos.